All right, so I'm back with some more building tips in Enshrouded that I wish I knew sooner. And these ones I found to be a little bit more advanced. You know, you got all your crafting stations set up, your base is getting the job done, but you honestly know that it could be so much more. You see those screenshots of like perfect buildings and everyone spending 100 hours on this massive castle build, and you got a shack. It's got 4 walls and a roof. That's all you need. I've been digging in to see if I can't find some more Enshrouded building tips that I wish I knew sooner, and these are the ones that I've gotten. I'm going to show you some of the advanced building techniques that I've been using that have been helping me build like a true architect. We're not just talking about making the blocks look pretty together. We're talking about core methods that really make a design something grand. We're going to take your base from functional to absolutely breathtaking. If that sounds good to you, do me a solid and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Enshrouded content. Anyway, let's get building. One of the biggest mistakes that I found myself making whenever I was choosing a location to build was just looking for something flat, just looking for a flat ground in a new biome. And I think that's where I ended up hurting myself as far as my designs were going, because there were so many other different great places that were off the beaten path that were unique in their own way. The first tip that I wish I would have learned sooner was, instead of just looking for a place to build a flat 4-wall square house, was to actually find a place where my building can mesh into the environment around it. Let me explain. For example, this house that I've been building in Albany's Summit is actually pressed up against the side of a wall. Now there's a road that's nearby, and I decided that my path would be to go ahead and have the building pressed up against the wall with the back 2 edges flush up against it to create that it was almost like carved out of the mountain to be here. And there are a number of different places that you can go and places that you can build your house that could almost make it feel like it's a part of the entire design itself. It's incredible. With what little effort you actually have to put into it, you can find a bunch of really good places. Over on cliff sides, up in the mountains, out in the fields. With so many different places that you could build your house, there's a lot that you could do as far as choosing the right location for you. Try to put it in a part of the environment. Try to use the construction materials that are for that area, and you'll be surprised how much better your buildings look. Building taller structures often means that you'll have to waste some time and resources on those clumsy wooden scaffolding that you just have to end up tearing down later. Honestly, there's a much faster way, and it's almost zero cost to build right at the right height. The trick is to use the large floor pieces as temporary floating platforms. Simply deselect the snapping feature and then aim your hammer in the sky where you want to work. Place a floor piece and then use your double jump skill to jump on top of it. And I always say the double jump is required in this game just because it is. From there, you can simply just place the next piece of your wall or ceiling or fine tune whatever you're doing on that area, and then continue on and placing another flat, large piece as another temporary floating platform. And then when you're all done, all you have to do is just scrap those pieces, and it's clean, it's cut, and you didn't have to spend any resources on any scaffolding. You can also take this just as a fun tip. You can make this into like a crazy jumping puzzle, really, if you want to. You can do that. That is something that I've seen done. But this really helps out with the speed and efficiency of your building, as you don't have to run back and forth. You can just use a little bit of your materials to create the little floating platforms that you need. Everyone here knows that you can mix materials, but randomly just throwing different blocks together often looks messy and chaotic. The secret to a really good look is to find materials with a purpose and create a visual language for your building. Think about what each material communicates. Stone feels really strong and structural, while wood feels like warmer and more suited for living places. For most buildings, you can find a way, instead of just simply placing the wood beams down on the floor and again going for that very square look, you can have a pressed out and almost deep looking foundation using some stone. For the building that I've been working on in the Albany Summit, I've really liked the idea of using the weathered stone look and then the conifer wood blocks to really accent each other. Now this really creates an extra larger foundation that makes it look like it was supposed to be there. That's kind of the idea. And then you can fill in with whatever pieces that you need, but the idea is following the simple rule of stone for structure, wood for walls, and it instantly makes your building look more logical, makes it more believable, and honestly more visually appealing. Just trust me on this. All right, so this is a bit of a fun one, but using the stair setting under your construction hammer will make sure that your building does have its nice straight feature. However, it doesn't add that spiral staircase that could be really stunning, especially if you're looking at like maybe a wizard's tower or something along that regard. But using some props, you can kind of make something that looks really amazing, and it's really not that difficult to put together. So you start by placing a stool where your staircase begins. Next, you place a wooden shelf next to it to serve as the first quote-unquote step. But the key is to take the second stool, and right before placing it, hold the R key and then the mouse wheel button to rotate it just a tiny bit. You only need it like 10-15 degrees. Placing this slightly rotated stool on top of the first shelf. Now place your next shelf and repeat the process. Each one of these stools, or tables if you're using those, can make the building look like it has a spiral staircase. Really adds a wonderful feature, and it makes it look so good. It does take some patience, but this technique allows you to create beautifully smooth, curved staircases that the standard building blocks could never really achieve. Your base's interior is truly where it comes to life, but simply placing default furniture can feel a bit generic. The next step is to build custom fixtures that are integrated directly into your home. You can transform a simple fireplace by building a custom brick base for it and allowing it to sit and then extending the chimney up through the roof. This creates a really big, nice hearth looking feature that your crafted fireplaces never really could do. And honestly, here, even for some added lighting to make it seem like it's a roaring blaze, you could even put a bonfire, you could put all sorts of different types of quote-unquote cooking areas. Heck, you could actually even use the cooking station from the farmer here and really make it look like it's a kettle that's supposed to be there. You can even create floor-to-ceiling storage units that by stacking the chests on each other and then framing them with some refined stone or metal blocks. You really can build this out and make it look a lot better just by integrating it into the house and having a little bit of creativity. All right, quick pause. If you found any of these tips helpful, please let me know in the comments below which one you have liked the most. And if you want to see even more deep dives into Enshrouded, make sure you're subscribed. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get back to it. If you really want to push your builds into a showpiece territory, you need to master the single voxel block. By switching your block size to the one smallest meter cube, you can add an incredible level of detail that really sets your work apart. You can use these tiny blocks to create custom intricate frames around your windows and doorways, or with small arches and ledges that the pre-made pieces can't offer you. If you have some patience, you can design a stunning mosaic floorboard by placing the single voxels with a bunch of different material into a checkerboard pattern. It requires a lot of work, I'm not going to lie to you, but this technique allows for you to have true artistry, turning a simple surface into a unique design element. It's really interesting. All right, one of my favorite things, one of the most difficult things I should say, is the roofing element. I've always had trouble getting the roofing just right, or just how it makes sense to me given the size of the house and where I'm at. Roof pieces are some of the more versatile building elements in the game, but most players really only use them, well, for roofs. What I'm going to ask you to do is that use them all over your building to add a bit of unique decorative flair. By placing a single roof piece diagonally over your windows, you create a small custom awning and the details of the architectural accents. This not only adds depth, but also introduces the unique textures of the roofing materials with a tile or shingles on your wall. You can stack roof blocks to create interesting columns, or use them to cover up ugly seams and then add another layer of believable detail to your structure. One of the most common and frustrating visual bugs that you'll run into, and again, I talk about roofing, is when you have gable walls. The triangle part of the wall at the end of your pitched roof. It clips right through the roofing. It looks messy, it looks unfinished, and there are two easy ways to solve this problem. The first and the simplest is to simply build a double layer roof. I've done this with the walls, and that works out great because you can double or triple layer your walls to create a sense of depth and a sense of solidness to your structure. You can do the same thing here with the roof. The extra thickness is often enough to hide the clipping textures. For a more elegant solution, you can build the gables themselves out of roof pieces instead of wall blocks. By using a different roof type from your main roof, you can create a wall that follows the roof's diagonal line without any clipping, resulting in a very clean and kind of finished project. All right, one of the last ones that I want to talk about is the standard fences and railings get the job done, but they can look a bit plain. For a truly custom build, you should look to create your own railings with unconventional parts. One of the most surprisingly effective methods is by using roofing blocks, as I had just mentioned. Start by setting up your posts and then connect them by laying a row of single roof blocks between them, and then stack another roof block on top to complete the railing. This method allows you to use different materials in a unique aesthetic that creates a much thicker and more substantial looking railing. Experiment with the different props and the block types to see what kinds of unique designs you can come up with and ones that you like. But really, just don't be afraid to mix everything up. Don't just always follow along with what this single design is. There you go. There are some more advanced tips to seriously elevate your enshrouded builds. We've covered everything from choosing your design location to creating custom spiral staircases and using roofing pieces in ways that you never really thought of. The key is to move beyond the basic block-to-block thinking and start seeing yourself as an architect, layering materials, creating depth, and using every tool that you have in your disposal in creative ways. The only real limit that you have is what you can dream up with. If you want to see the first set of tips that I wish I knew sooner in Enshrouded, you can click this video here. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.